That is the 2016 Legacy. This is for the people that want just a sprinkle more of class in their Subaru commute.
Done that better than I did it.
Well, that's good because I actually looked at it.
You have
Put it on.
you have patience. I don't.
No, I wouldn't have patience if I worked here every day. You know, salespeople and PR will point out all the little details, like the LED running lights that look very BRZ-ish. You know, this modification of the hexagonal grille. And again, this is a car that just doesn't deviate too much from the norm. And in the mid-sized car market, you don't want to be up here and you don't want to be down here, and this falls somewhere in the middle. It's definitely not a bad looking car, but it's not inspiring any emotion for me. Somebody said to me the other day, well, if you've seen one modern car, you've seen them all. And in some cases that's true. But there is a big pro to this Legacy exterior, and that is it looks extremely solid. It has this sense of safety around it. And I think that translates from the outside to the inside of this vehicle when you get in there. It's a cohesive inside to outside package. Well, if you're a Subaru fan, this is where the car becomes more recognizable. The taillight design, the rear bumper design, this looks a lot more like the Impreza and their other vehicles. And you have this somewhat integrated duckbill spoilerish thing going on with the trunk. And it's really not a bad rear end, but you know, again, if you're a shopper or a buyer, you're gonna have to decide if this is something that's really gonna tickle you. This is something else to note, and Toyota system's very similar. When you need to get in and out of this car, when you have the key fob or the key in your pocket, all you have to do is walk up to the car, grab the handle, and open it. It will auto unlock just from touching it. You don't have to press any buttons, nothing. Trunk space. When you get to a sedan, you wanna know about it. This is no hatchback, believe me, but I fit all my gear in here, and the width of the trunk is pretty amazing. I can fit my 42-inch slider in here with room to spare width-wise. I could probably fit something 50 inches in here, and I would say if you're in the cadaver moving business, you could probably fit 3 adult bodies in here, no problem. This is a Subaru Legacy, Scott, 3.6R.
What's the R for?
Don't know, don't care. It's just a different model designation. This is the top level trim, and let's get it over with. This specific car that we're looking at is $33,000.
Sounds like a good deal.
I think it actually is for what you get. It's really not a lot of money for, you're getting all-wheel drive, you're getting a motor that's really smooth. It's great. You get into this and you're like, man, I don't want to get in a 4-cylinder again.
Well, yeah, I've been telling you that for years.
Yeah, but yeah, I guess you're right. There's a lot of plastic panels on here, which it looks like there's a little snap clip cover to get to the filter. And you can get directly to the drain plug right here, Scott, without removing anything. How do you feel about that?
That's fantastic.
Yeah. How did it make you want to just grab a couple wrenches and do some oil drainage?
Vice grips, man.
Oh, you use vice grips? Mm-hmm. Yeah, why bother getting all those tools? You can use vice grips.
Or maybe an pneumatic impact, what the hell's it called? A pneumatic nut runner?
Oh, is that what it's called?
Something like that.
That's Volvo's terminology? Mm-hmm. Pneumatic nut runner?
Something like that.
Obviously, there is no aluminum here. There's just stamped steel struts on the front. And it has one of our favorite features.
Dual piston calipers?
Well, yeah, it does have dual piston calipers. You've got a great eye for brakes. No, I was thinking more of the continuously variable transmission that's installed here.
Does it have paddle shifters?
It does.
Oh man, how many simulated cogs?
It's got 6 cogs, 6 digi-cogs, and we're gonna get into that later, but this is the best implementation of a CVT I've been in. It's really, actually, I would say probably 95% of the public that would get in here, they'd have no idea it was a CVT. That's how good it is. And when you go into manual mode, which is typically a joke, it actually will hold RPMs It won't just auto like drop it
That's
down.
totally necessary.
It is totally necessary when you're driving this thing flat out to Walmart. So let's take a look at the middle part of the vehicle, Scott.
Sounds like a plan.
This is where you're getting a lot for your money with the Subaru. No, not the plastic panels. No. We're talking about the symmetrical all-wheel drive system. This is what sets it apart from your Accords, your Camrys, all the other mid-sized cars that you would consider in this price range. It just doesn't plow everywhere like all the other ones. If you get a Camry with a V6 or an Accord with a V6, yeah, it's just a plow fest.
Gotta do some suspension swaps to fix that.
No, you can't fix not having power sent to the rear wheels. So that's what you get here, and it's pretty damn reliable, and you're gonna get that part of it. And this would be really good for somebody who wants a sedan in a colder climate where you experience snow and salt, or you want to go mudding.
I like the exhaust. So if this goes bad right here, you gotta replace that cap, but that side you don't because it's flanged. What sense does that make?
It's like you would have just been better off going duals all the way. Of course, there's no room for it, but I don't know, whatever.
Get rid of that propeller shaft and you'll have room.
Oh, then you could just have a pure front wheel,
Nice
pure driver's
1-inch pipes all the way back.
1-inch pipe?
Mm-hmm.
I'd go 6-inch pipe. I'd have the spouts coming out the top. You're getting all-wheel drive here. That's the big thing. Double wishbone in the back, and mostly, actually all stamped steel with the exception of this differential cover.
I was looking at these control arms. I think we should put some Oleans in there and tighten them down.
Yeah, without the bushing spacers. But that's just so you get extra torque on it. You don't need the spacer.
Right.
That's just for looks. All right, let's take a look under the hood. Wow, look at that, Scott. What do we got here?
3.6 liter V6.
Yeah, that V is definitely more of an H.
I don't even think it's.
It's a horizontally opposed boxer 6-cylinder engine. It's just.
Is it out of a Porsche?
Yeah, they pulled it straight out
You
of
could
it.
just probably swap in a 911 in there.
And what would you do with that? Just take the rear wheel drive part, take the all-wheel drive off, and just leave it front wheel drive?
Yeah.
That would be so
Definitely.
fun. Yeah, that's the ideal swap.
And have rear wheel steering instead of front wheel because it'd just be easier.
Yeah, good idea. That's why this is kind of one of those innovative channels that people like to watch. There's a lot going on mentally here. Nice strut towers. It needs a huge brace. Forged aluminum or carbon fiber.
Definitely. With an inlay of LEDs, so when you open the hood, you can see your head gaskets leaking.
We have a plastic intake manifold. This looks extremely easy to service for the most part. They've put everything in logical places. This is not about performance, obviously, because you have a 3.6 liter that only puts out about 240 horsepower or something like that. So this is detuned, I would think.
Logical. I'm going to see how fast you can change them spark plugs.
Well, you just have to unbolt the motor and raise it out of the car to get to them. You just have to jack up one side of the engine. You know how quick that is?
Well, if it's anything like an old Subaru, it's 2 nuts on each side and jack it up a little bit and you're done.
This side's pretty easy to get to. How is it over there?
It's probably not. It looks worse than it is usually.
Yeah, this does not look like there's enough space to get your tools in there with it jacked up. So, you noticed this little carriage here.
Oh, the empty spot?
The empty spot. You think it's for power steering?
No, I think it's for a supercharger.
That would be a really cool small supercharger too. We talked about this with the Corolla. I know this is nothing like a Corolla, but it's the same idea. You have port injection and CVTs for the efficiency. And the case of this car, given the type of fuel economy that I'm getting, I would prefer just a standard automatic or a manual transmission. That would transform this car. Actually, if this had a manual transmission, I'd consider buying it as like a daily driver. I know that's weird, but it really is that, it's really that good. I'm serious.
Okay.
You gotta drive it. It's comfortable, the sound system's good, It rides well. You have all-wheel drive. I mean, you're already getting shitty gas mileage, so why not put a manual
Right.
in it?
What's the difference?
It's pretty damn good.
I'll wait for the turbo model.
Yeah, that'll be out in about 2042. It'll be a digital turbo.
What else has it got?
I don't know. You said it has a manual belt tensioner, no flex belts.
No
or
stretch belt.
belt.
Always worrying about flexing.
We said this about the Impreza, the non-turbo model. There's a level of simplicity here that would make this extremely easy for somebody to do their own work on it for the most part. Yes, it's got some spots that are tight, but for the most part, this is a common person's car. You could buy this probably legitimately and own it outright without having to lease it. And I would think the only thing you'd have to really worry about is the CVT going bad if you're beating on it. We're gonna take a ride in the 2016 Legacy. And I always take cars back here now, specifically cars like this, to see how the suspension handles, the dampers handle, just the overall chassis handles all the different types of pavement undulations and dips and cracks and bumps. So one of the first things I noticed about the Legacy is on smooth pavement and just on the highway driving in general, this is one of the better dampened cars in the mid-size segment. It's really comfortable, it's really quiet, and it has a really good steering feel to it on the open road. Now, that's great because it should be smooth on, highways and stuff like that. But when you get to the chop, like this pavement section that I take all the cars back, it also does a really good job on the medium bumps and dips. You don't feel every little bump. It's just really well controlled. The body control's there. It gives you a lot of confidence, and it still has more of a luxury type ride for a mid-segment car. Now, where this car starts to really come apart is on the bigger undulations, the bigger bumps and dips, just kind of broken pavement in general. And it sounds like right now, just driving this, especially when you get up to higher speeds on some of the bigger bumps, it sounds like one of the dampers that's blown out. This is where you can kind of feel the suspension and the chassis start to just flex. You feel it in the floorboards. It doesn't do a good job isolating just the bigger bumps, and I'm not sure if it's just bushings. Again, you just really don't know where the disconnect is, but that problem really is only about 10% of the time on really bad pavement. Now, the next thing to talk about is this CVT, and the CVT has been demonized by enthusiasts, and Subaru and Nissan specifically have put a ton of work and investment in their CVTs because they've adopted this technology and they're not just going to simply abandon it. So instead of just going back to what worked before, they are continually improving it. And the CVT on this Legacy is one of the best ones I've been in. And I said this in the shop, most people aren't going to notice the fact that this has a CVT, which is a big deal. And even the paddles work well. It's got 6 simulated gears, and it jumped a gear because I shifted and it tried to auto shift. Let's take this through the turns. One of the big things about this Legacy is the fact that the front end feels really heavy. You can feel the weight of the Legacy on the front end, and what they've tried to do to counter that is create a really light steering wheel. It's so overly light and synthetic at speed where it does change direction extremely quick. It's like they have the alignment tweak to give you this quick steering response, but the steering wheel is so light that it's just annoying almost. It just feels synthetic. One of the big benefits of this Legacy is the 6-cylinder. I'm at the top of a hill, it's kind of blind, and never do I have to worry about getting out in front of traffic. This thing hauls ass, and boy does it sound good. You realize right away when you get into a vehicle of this class how much of a difference having a 6-cylinder is over any turbo 4, over any just naturally aspirated 4-cylinder. It's partially what makes this driving experience what it is. Now, the negative side effect of this is obviously you have a CVT, which I've pretty much said is pretty damn good in here, but the fuel economy sucks. Really, my average has been 21 miles per gallon, and that's the trade-off of having these extra cylinders. You want the refinement, you want the overall torque and speed here. You're getting the fuel economy cut, and that just sucks. I'd almost prefer, I think if you're gonna have this type of fuel economy, why not just have a manual transmission option here? It would make the car a lot more enjoyable. Next thing is all the safety features. That's a big thing for people that are buying a Subaru. This eyesight system I talked about in the Impreza is here to do radar cruise control. It's here to do forward crash mitigation, can detect a car or an obstacle in front of you, slow the car down or stop it. And then it also looks at lane departure. But that requires, as you can just hear, lines on the road for the system to pick up. If you have lines on the left and the right, it knows when you cross one of these. And there's a display on the front here that will show you when it can see both lines. So when it picks it up and you slightly go over the line, it will beep, show you the right line blinking. If you go over the left, it will beep on the left, which it didn't there probably because it just recovered. The other thing that it will do is on this car, if you push the button on the steering wheel, it will do lane correction. So when you go outside the lane a little bit, it will steer you back in. We'll kind of do that here, and it's steering me right back in the lane because it can pick up the two lines. Now, the weakness of this system is it will only do it if you're in a slight drift. If you slowly drift into that line, it will correct you. But if you're on the highway and you've totally snoozed out and that car starts to veer off hard, you're screwed. It's not going to correct you. So the lane assist feature is really kind of version 1.0. It's kind of there to help, but it's mostly a gimmick at this point. I just leave it off because I don't like the feeling of the steering wheel tugging at me if I'm slightly going over a line. The radar cruise control works really well. You can control the distance from the car in front of you, and it's right on the steering wheel like most cars to kind of adjust the distance that you want to keep from the car in front of you. It works really well. And the last part of this is the forward crash mitigation system. If you come up on a car too fast, it will constantly beep at you. And probably like here, we can get it to do, already it's alerting me that there's an obstacle, and it's super sensitive compared to most cars. And that might be a good thing depending on what kind of driver you are, but just be aware of it. And there's all these buttons down here to turn all these systems off, which we'll go over in the interior part of it. Inside the Legacy, the interior of Subaru vehicles is actually one of the most debated parts of their cars. They lack flair, they lack modernism. This new Legacy is one of the best Subaru interiors I've been in, but still plenty will debate that it feels outdated already, that it lacks just overall just the modernism that a lot of cars just offer today. I don't feel like there's a ton of gimmicks in here. I feel like most everything has a purpose. It's a very comfortable space. It's one of the most comfortable, Subarus I've been in, and then to top that off, especially with this 6-cylinder motor, it's one of the better midsize cars I've driven for a lot of reasons, and this interior definitely is one of them. Now, if you're one of those buyers that needs LED accent lighting everywhere and mother-of-pearl plastic trim and all the fluff that you want from a modern car, the Legacy's probably not going to cut it for you. But if you're somebody that likes the more back-to-basics, simplistic, tried-and-true interior, this is going to call out to you. And it's going to call out to you for a lot of reasons. One, well, they're soft-touch materials in the right places. The armrests are super well padded. I mean, I don't even know how to explain it. They just are so comfortable on both elbows. The lower trim pieces are soft touch. Even the upper dash, while it looks a little bit over textured, it doesn't feel, it's still slightly padded. It doesn't feel like it's from a dollar store plastic bin. The HVAC controls are extremely simplistic and easy to read and easily laid out. There's no touch sensitive crap here. Your seat heater buttons, everything's within hand's reach. Now, the steering wheel starts to get cluttered, and same thing by your left knee because you have a button for every single piece of safety equipment in here. And it's just ridiculous. You have an SRF button. You have your forward crash mitigation button. You have your blind spot monitoring, your lane departure warning, your traction control, your trunk button, and then the steering wheel has more of it for your radar cruise control switches, your lane departure assist button. I mean, there's just so many buttons here for all this safety shit. It's so over the top now that, you know, I understand why it's here, because people care about safety and this is the new trend in all these cars before fully autonomous cars. But, you know, it's overwhelming, and most people that don't know what the hell this is are going to be just like shaking their head. Other interior items to cover is the dead pedal's coated with plastic, so you're not going to wear a hole in it like on some of the Mazdas. The door pockets have really good storage, and there's storage for bottles there. Your cup holder design is good in the center console, and there's like a storage area for like an iPass or coins or whatever little trinkets you want. There's a deep well in the back where your USB cables, you can fit almost any type of phone in there too, so that's good. Then we come to the infotainment, and this is kind of where it starts to fall apart, because everything's simplistic in old school besides this. It's glossy black. So like right now, all I see is dust and fingerprints on it. And it's all capacitive touch, which means there's no tactile feedback. You can't tell if you're pushing the knob or not, or button or not. And of course you need to, if you're wearing gloves in the winter, it's, you know, not gonna work. The second thing is you don't have a central command knob. So this whole system relies on touchscreen usage, including when you're driving, and that sucks. It does have a physical knob, rotary knobs for tuning and volume, which is great, except they've decided that they're going to go for this upscale machined aluminum feeling knobs that are super slippery. There's no grip on it, and it's just kind of difficult to turn easily like it is the HVAC knobs, which actually have a rubber coating around them for easy grip. So that's something they need to improve. The overall interface is actually pretty damn good. They've made a big improvement here. It's fast, it's quick to get around, it's responsive to swipe gestures for the most part, and the menu structure, because it's all touch, they've made the icons big enough where you're not like, you know, playing whack-a-mole trying to hit a button, or, you know, not hit a button, but hit the icon on the screen. For the most part, it's easy to get around. Once you have everything set up, you don't have to dick with it. Sound quality is really good in here. It's surprisingly good. One of the more, for the price range, it's one of the top ones I've been in, and the clarity is good, especially in aux. Now, I have the new HTC, which has a better DAC built into it, and I can really tell the difference using aux with that. But Bluetooth is equally good. There's not, I mean, there's compression, but it's not like a lot of other cars where you just feel like you're listening through a tin can, or like, you know, you're listening to XM radio. So that's a huge pro, and you should try that out. Navigation is pretty good. The map structure is good. It's quick to get around. There's just not a lot of lag here. That's really the takeaway from this. So once they get some type of central command system set up in here, I think it's going to be a lot better. Oh, backseat comfort is really good. And that's actually a big point of this vehicle. It is a little bit larger, and it is super comfortable. I like the seating position in the back, in the front, the actual bolsters, the actual padding in the seats, the perforations, and of course you have heated seats in the back on this model. It's really comfortable all around. I have zero complaints about it. Now, if you're taller in the back, obviously, you know, you're gonna complain about bumping your head, but I have zero problem getting in and out at 5'9". There's a ton of headroom. Even the headrest back here makes sense. You're not gonna worry about hitting the glass, and again, unless you're probably over 6 feet. It's a big, huge part of the Legacy is the comfort. That's my real takeaway here of this.